Strap in for an unforgettable ride this episode of Wild Talk. I catch up with Tana and Adam Grenda, who live in the heart of rural Alaska, where nature calls the shots. We dive into what it's like to live in one of the most remote places on Earth, and what happens when a grizzly decides your chickens are dinner.
This one we had a tag for, so I just walked back there, I shot it, skinned it.
Plus, we've got Sam and Colby Kumson from the Kumson Electric Race Team. As always, we've got the rock star Kate Rundle here with her social segment. Buckle up. Let's get wild.
Wild Talk is brought to you by Aventura, Timber Stove, Hornady, and Wild TV Plus.
We are back with more Wild Talk. I'm your host, Steve Hamilton.
We are back at it for another social segment on Wild Talk.
All right, welcome back to Wild Talk. I'm your host, Steve Hamilton. We are talking about living off the land, rural living, and when I say rural living, you probably have no idea what that means until we talk to these two people. We've got Adam and Tana Grenda. You might know them as Stuck in the Rut. A huge thanks for joining me today, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, morning.
So let's dive right into it. You guys are in rural Alaska, and the world has been watching. We know that just had a big election down there, and I want to know, what does that mean for fish, wildlife, firearms owners?
She just tapped me like that's your cue to go.
I know. I was kind of throwing it your way.
No, I am super relieved. You can tell a lot of us conservationists and conservatives have really been feeling the weight of this election coming up. And I mean, we were honestly shocked. We woke up and saw the results because we didn't think it'd be possible. But it's just like a huge weight lifted off. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a win for the U.S.
Yeah, and Adam, what are your thoughts?
Specifically for Alaska, there's so much federal land in Alaska that there's a huge overreach from the federal government, closing lands, using, like we talked about before this, like ballot box rationale of we're going to use our feelings to control the hunting and how much take of wildlife versus biology. And it's been happening at a huge rate, and it's exponentially increasing. And so we're hopeful with, Don Jr. being a big hunter, influencing his dad, and just more realistic biology-based approach will hopefully stop the halt the federal land restrictions and maybe get some of that opened back up that we've had closed.
Right. I've pushed that you're rural. And when I say rural, can you describe just what that looks like for our listeners and our viewers?
Yeah, I feel like we're not even as rural as some people get, but it still shocks people to realize that they can't drive to our community. You have to fly in only, or I guess you could get there by boat or barge, but it is remote in that sense where it is landlocked. We are 300 miles off the nearest road system. You're only flying to where we're going to get, and that includes flying food. And, if you're building a house like we are, barging in materials, and it's just a really expensive hobby, I guess, to live out there. But what it does is it kind of removes ourselves from the world, and it's kind of like the world would end. You wouldn't even know it because you're living out in this remote area that you could literally go into the wilderness and not see a person for days or weeks on end. It's pretty awesome.
That's a hell of a drive in a straight line. And I know you guys have an aircraft, right? So that makes things a little bit easier, but.
So we live about 300 miles direct southwest of Anchorage, right on the Alaska Peninsula. Hits the mainland there. It's about 4 hours in the Super Cub, but it's really cost effective just to take the big jet. We have Alaska Airlines that flies in there. So it's not like as bush as you could get to some villages where there's just a small little gravel runway. We have a 10,000-foot runway, but we're building a hangar house. And like when we got that thing, just the shell up, I mean, every nail, every board, every window, all of it comes up on a barge. It's like you don't think about that stuff when you're just building a shack in your backyard. You just go to
No.
Home Depot. But when you got to figure out where to source this stuff from lower 48, drive to Seattle, put it on a barge, and then it shows up a month later, it's really difficult. But there's a lot of benefits that come with it too, you know, because there's no people, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing the things you take for granted, right? My wife will say to me, "Oh, can you run to the store and just grab a bag of chips, or I'm feeling snacky, get some ice cream, whatever." It's not just a simple process for somebody like yourself who has to jump in an aircraft to get any sort of real supplies, right? I've followed you on Instagram for a hell of a long time now, and watching you guys do some of your orders, and you're planning out months at a time for a grocery run. So a lot of people, I'm sure, are going, what the hell? Why did you guys do that? So what inspired this move, not just rural, but that far away?
It's what nudges me.
Yeah, like I couldn't talk.
Can I be honest on the podcast?
Absolutely.
I'm just allergic to dude. And there's not a lot of people up there, and the hunting is so incredible. And they say the last frontier. I mean, it's what you would think about when you think about like Wyoming, Montana, Idaho in the 1950s. That's Alaska today, I feel like. It's getting worse, right? More people want to hunt and stuff like that. But it is insane the level of game you can have in Alaska, and these once-in-a-lifetime experiences we get to do monthly. And the biggest challenge is this thing right here. You have to marry a unicorn that says, I want to go live somewhere with cold, dark winters, not be around a lot of people, but I want to spend my life outside with you and not really have any friends, and somehow we haven't killed each other yet.
And you got a big family too.
Yeah.
Allegedly, yeah.
Oh.
We'll get more into Adam's definition of allegedly after the break.
You guys are quite open about that you foster a lot of kids. How many do you have right now?
We have 6 kids, 5 adopted and 1 foster. And, you know, when we first moved out there, it was just us. And that's when we got into foster care, because we saw the need in the villages of how many kids needed good families. But when we moved out there in 2017. You know, that was when we had President Trump, and things, even though it was more expensive and it was more like island prices, it was more affordable. And that's the other thing that we're really, I think, relieved about right now, is just with the inflation and stuff. It has become so unaffordable to live off the grid, not really off the grid, but just out there. I mean, with fuel prices, we're paying over $1 a pound to ship anything in, and that includes all of our food. And it's just been, so like with kids, it's like we got 5 kids at once, and then we got a 6th, and I've had kids in and out of our house, and you know, we've survived, but we've had to work extra hard the last couple of years to keep up with the inflation, to even feed our kids, and to be able to buy avgas to, you know, travel. Right now, 3 of our kids have braces, so we have to fly them into Anchorage and fly them onto the road system to even go to any medical appointments. And right now, I'm dealing with a lot of medical stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of downsides with living out there. You really do have to travel in and out a lot. It costs a lot of money. But at the end of the day, we always say, like, what's more important, our mental health and our well-being, and being able to live a life that we love, or having a bunch of money in our bank account. And for us, it's like, it's worth it for us to spend more to live out there and to have the peace of mind. And like he was saying, it's like living back in time. So I always tell people it's like living 20 to 30 years in the past when people get out to where we're at. And when people come to visit, they say the same thing. They're just like, life just slows down. Like, you guys aren't really on a schedule. It's just, you know, you run by the weather. You know, your life is run by what the weather looks like outside. And it's just a really kind of peaceful, chill life. And we really enjoy that, even if it costs an arm and a leg to do. You know?
So let's talk about what a typical day looks like for you with 6 kids in that remote of an area. Walk us through it.
Well, you have your day-to-day when they have school, which is, we have a tiny little like private Christian school that we send our kids to. There's 15 kids, and our kids make up about half of it. And it's so worth it to me, because I'm not a homeschool mom. Like, people will say, "Oh, it'll be so great." No, we tried it.
We suck.
We're terrible at homeschooling, and so I'm much more, willing to pay somebody else to help. But it's kind of like a little co-op. Yeah, so they go to school all day, and then I'm home with the babies, 1.5 right now. And I know before I got pretty sick this last month, we were out trapping and just flying and adventuring, and I went on a caribou hunt, and he went on a moose hunt. And so it just, while the kids are in school, we might fly and adventure somewhere. But on the weekends, it's, that's when we can do bigger hunts, or he'll take the kids out and go hunting. It just kind of depends on like the weather and the time of year. It's a really nice weather day, you're going to find him in the cub. We're not going to be sitting at home, but a lot of times we have bad weather days and we're kind of sitting at home or just playing outside with the kids, or, cooking 5,000 meals for 6 kids. It never ends, and cleaning and all that. And then we do have a couple rentals that we run out there, like Airbnb and stuff. So we turn those and keep those clean, because we do live in a touristy area in the summertime. So in the summer, we have a lot of people that come out and do fishing and bear viewing and all that. And that's when our Airbnbs are kind of full. And then in the winter, everything's like really quiet, and it's cold and it's dark, but it's so peaceful. Summer times are really busy. There's just tons of people in and out for the tourist side. And then in the winter, it's just like, we're just living out in the middle of nowhere in the winter with the snow and the predators and wolf trapping and, all the fun stuff that you can do in the winter, even if it's cold and dark and kind of depressing sometimes.
Yeah, those cold winter nights and days, even here in the interior BC, I know that the clocks went back, not even a week ago, and my daughter, she's 12, is just like, oh man, it's dark when I wake up, it's dark when I go to bed, and it's so depressing. When's the clocks go ahead, Dad? Like,
It's
man,
tough.
not too much longer. I believe they start to pop ahead in December, January, or whatever it is. I don't really pay attention, but I can relate to the long winters. But I imagine that your daylight hours kind of suffer this time of year. Hey, what's sun up for you guys?
Now, like 9 o'clock. By December, in the darkest time, like 10:30. So that's I feel like I can handle the dark in the evening.
Right.
It's in the morning when it's just dark and you just have a hard time getting going, and then by the time the sun's up, the sun just kind of stays on the horizon all day. It doesn't even really get, high noon, and it just goes back down. And you're like, okay. So, we try to get out around Christmas time and go see family in the lower 48, or we try to go somewhere warm like Cabo or Hawaii or somewhere to get some sunshine, just because I don't know how you survive otherwise. I need a little bit of sunshine just to like leave and get out during that dark time to break up the winter. And then, after December, coming back when it's starting to get lighter and lighter every day, and then that's when we kind of start trapping season, versus right now when it's just getting darker every day and you're battling daylight. You just don't get a lot done when you only have 5 to 6 hours of daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, we're blessed where we're at. We're in southern Alaska, but if you live in northern Alaska, you get hardly any daylight. So I don't know if I can handle living up like in Fairbanks or even north of that. I treasure my 5 to 6 hours of daylight.
Yeah, there's something to be said about those long summer days, though. I know what it's like here when we're bear hunting in June. It's like, man, it's still daylight at 10 o'clock. Like the sun's peeking down, but you still got enough light that you're out there and you're safe and you can see things. But I can only imagine.
We're out till like midnight. You can see. It's crazy.
We'll be back with more from the Grendas, but up next, we talk with the owners of the Kumson Electric Race Team. I'm joined today by the team from Kumsons Electric Racing, and that's fascinating to me. Huge thanks from all of us at Wild TV and Wild Talk for joining us today. Welcome.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Let's jump right into it. Tell me about the Electric Race Team. How did it all begin? What inspired you to do it?
So Kumson's Electric Race Team started in 2021, just after the pandemic. During 2020, my boy wanted to go racing. So we built them these electric quads due to the fact that we hated the 90cc motor. Mom couldn't get them running. I was out of town doing other things, and the kids just wanted to ride. So I converted gas ATVs to electric, so for ease of use. That was the main goal. And then one of my kids got good at it. He rode the quad. You couldn't get him off the quad. So he came 2020. Can I go racing? Well, not this year, but we'll look for something for him. 2021, we found the ATV Triple Crown Race Series here in Alberta. And they said, yeah, come on out. We need kids. We want them to race. I told them we were electric. They said, yeah, as long as you can make it around the track. We were like, took it as a challenge and said, yeah, let's do this. So our first race was in Blue Ridge down by Whitecourt there. It was amazing. It was second to none. Like, the kid made it around the track. It was muddy. It would rain the whole weekend. We didn't race on Saturday. He raced on Sunday. He actually made it around the track. He finished his laps. He did really good. And yeah, game on. That was when we started Kumson's Electric Race Team.
So hooked from the get-go.
Yeah. Get-go. Yeah.
So you essentially took a gas-powered vehicle, turned it electric. Obviously, there were some challenges. Walk me through a couple of the basic ones.
So yeah, the first season we had Isaac riding by himself there. We ran into not knowing what we needed to make him achieve what he wanted to do. So the first race, he did make it around. The second race in that day, he made it, I want to say, all the laps except for one, and his battery died. So after that, we put in a bigger battery for the next race, and yeah, he conquered everything he needed, and he finished the season off with that machine. We did a little suspension tuning and this and that, just things that we learned along the way for ATV racing.
Right.
And then the next year we got a little more serious and built him Apex ATV, one of the ATVs that all the kids use to race, and we made it electric. And yeah, he dominated on that thing. And yeah,
that's incredible.
Again, it was another great season. So
I love hearing stuff like that, ground up successes. Obviously, there's going to be bumps and bruises in the literal sense and the figurative sense, right? ATV racing, there's going to be things, no matter what you're on, gas or electric, that are going to break. You're going to learn about, right? And that's you're rolling with the punches, so to speak, right? Give us an overview of what an electric ATV side by side, the things you race, looks like. How do they compare to traditional gas powered machines in the terms of?
So the only thing that changes, the only thing that we ever do to a machine is take the gas motor out and replace that with an electric motor, a battery pack, and a controller.
I kind of want to pivot and transition, like being an outdoor network here. A lot of the questions are going to come in about how do you see this, or does it immediately adapt to other outdoor pursuits like hunting, general off-roading?
Like if we're just a race team. So we're just promoting electrics can do things, for an electric in the hunting and outdoor world, there's a lot of electric boats out there. Polaris has electric side-by-sides. There's a reason for it. You can go through the woods and not hear anything but tires.
That's big.
The animal's not going to hear you come up. You're not contaminating or putting off gases in nature, right? And once again, like fire season, you can run your electric. You can't run a gas powered, right? So.
Yeah, you made a good point there that I didn't even think of about being able to use them in fire season. Another question that I personally have is how long would it take to charge one of these things in the backcountry, and what kind of time, battery life would I get out of it, like distance-wise or however it works afterwards?
Charging in the backcountry, charging at the track, what we do is we have an enclosed trailer that has 2,000 watts of solar on top of it, 15 kilowatts of lithium inside, and we can charge at the track. We charge at the track basically on solar all the time. For backcountry, you could carry a generator with you. It's all going to depend on who built it and how the battery is built to be able to tell you how fast it can charge.
Okay.
Our units they can charge it 45 minutes from dead. But I can't vouch that for every unit going out.
That's not too bad. For somebody that's considering possibly going this route to get away from the gas and go to electric, what kind of advice would you give them?
Do your research. If you're not going to build it yourself, make sure, like I say, do your research. If you're going to buy something from somebody, a lot of things come out of China or whichever are good product, but then you're going to get the bad product. Yeah, a main thing is do your research, right? That's the big thing. If you're going to buy an electric vehicle, do your research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't just put it off as anybody can do it. Oh yeah, they're all the same. They aren't all the same, and we can prove that.
That's awesome. This has been a great conversation, getting to know a little bit about the team, the accomplishments, and the technology that's coming forward. So a huge thanks from me at Wild Talk and us at Wild TV for everything that you do, and I look forward to seeing where you go.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm Kate here with my good old buddy Hank. We've got some local Alaskans on the show today, so it only makes sense to show you some deadly clips of Alaskan adventures. Let's check them out. In 3, 2, 1, let's go.
God almighty! Oh, I got splashed by him. Did you get that? I hope so. I hope so. Huh?
All right, everybody, Hank and I are out of here. We'll see you next time on Wild Talk.
Coming up after the break, we explore more of the Alaskan lifestyle with the Grendas.
I'm trying to wrap my head around some of these challenges that you guys face living where you guys do. So what are they? Like, obviously one is going to be sourcing food outside of wild game or anything like that, and just basic necessities. So you're going to put together a shop for an indeterminate period of time. What does that look like, and how do you go about planning that?
Like for food?
Yeah.
Well, we have 4 freezers right now full of wild game, caribou, moose, and then salmon. We don't have halibut or really any other seafood where we're at. It's primarily salmon. And so we've got our meat covered, and I don't really buy any meat because we've got 4 freezers full. Mm-hmm. And then I have big, like 5-gallon buckets of things like sugar and flour and oats and stuff. And I'll ship that in like on a barge or an airplane like once a year and get a good year's supply of that, and then fill those 5-gallon tubs. And I have those like lying in my kitchen where, I'm making bread. I try to make tortillas. I try to make a lot of things from scratch. So yeah, the oats and rice, and we deal a lot with that. And then when it comes to fresh food, we eat pretty healthy. So the only other things we buy is like potatoes, fruit, and veggies. And those are the things that we can't get where we're at. So I actually use Instacart. I don't know if Canada has something like that, but it's like a private shopper, and they'll go to Costco or a grocery store. They'll shop your order for a small fee. You can tip them, and then they deliver it somewhere. Usually you deliver it to your house, but for us, we have them deliver it to a air cargo company, and then it usually sits there for a day or two in their fridge or freezer on a pallet, and then they load it into an airplane. We pay over $1 a pound, and then it ships out to us. And then I go pick it up at the airport. So that's how I get fresh produce, but still it's not that fresh by the time you have somebody shop Costco and then take it there, and then it sits there for a few days, and then you get it to you, and it's like, okay, kids, eat all of it, all the fresh stuff right now, because it's going to go bad tomorrow. So we get fresh food probably every 1 or 2 weeks, and we try to eat it within a couple days, and then we're living off rice, potatoes, meat, the other days till we do our next order, if that makes sense.
Right. There's so much people that live in urban centers or closer take for granted, right? I said it earlier in the chat that I can just run and grab a gallon of milk or a bag of potatoes, and that's something you have to really prepare for. And a bag of spinach in our fridge will go bad within a week, right? You need to That's not something you traditionally would get unless you have meal planned and said it gets here on Sunday, we're eating it Monday, it's gone by Tuesday.
Yep.
So yeah, I imagine you guys don't have that big of a growing season up there.
No, it's about 3 months from the last frost to the first frost of the next fall, and it's pretty tough. I mean, our soil isn't great, and honestly, summers are so busy for me that I just don't have the time. I have a beautiful greenhouse. I can usually grow like lettuce and salad stuff pretty easily, but all the other stuff takes too long. Yeah, had
a nice greenhouse.
A bear kind of tore it and broke the windows and the door and stuff. So yeah, I didn't even garden this year. It was just, it takes a lot of time and energy and chasing 6 kids around and, you know, running a business and running our Airbnbs and running retreats. Like, I just didn't have a ton of time to garden, but I hope to get into that. But yeah, it's really hard to grow where we're at. And we don't get the warm weather that a lot of other places get. We're pretty coastal. And so our average temperature is 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, cloudy. Like, you're not getting a ton of sun. You might get a few days of sunny and 70, but it's pretty tough to grow stuff. You definitely need a greenhouse, and even then, it's hard. So I gave up this year.
So let's dig into the craziness that you deal with up there. There was a video, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, not even, of you going outside, Adam, with the lever and dispatching a problem grizzly. So let's talk about that. What happened there, and how often does that happen?
We live in town right now. We're building a hangar house, kind of on the outskirts of town on a private runway. But when we live in town, it's 10 miles from the dump, and for a bear, that's like hour, 2 hour walk. And it's the closest timber and shade and like bedding area to the dump where they just go and eat.
And we live next to a creek.
We live next to a creek with fish and stuff, and so we run into problems with bears twice in the years. Usually it's right before I'm leaving on a doll sheep hunt, like early August, when the salmon are done running. The canneries aren't pumping out all the pulp from the fish mills and guts and stuff, and the bears can take advantage of that, and they kind of like, okay, we're going to start breaking into houses, cars, anything that might have a smell. Kids leave a sandwich wrapper in there, that kind of stuff. And then now, because we're going into hibernation mode, bears, they get this freak out sense of, I need to eat more. I'm not going to make it for 6 months. And so we have chickens in our house to produce some eggs. And I think we've lost like over a dozen this year, and mostly to bears and stuff. And it's just really difficult. And the greenhouse got broken into because I think we were taking some of the chicken manure, putting it in there as compost and stuff. And so that's like a natural bear bait. But long story short, I woke up, it was like 5:30 in the morning, it's dark outside. I walk outside, and like 3 yards from my front door is like a pile of steaming fresh bear crap. And then I hear it running away in the gravel in the dark. So I go get a headlamp and a 458 and drive around, look for this bear to kind of just haze it off, never see it. Kids go get the eggs in the morning before school. They say, hey, there's feathers everywhere. I say, okay, come back inside. I'll go look. Half the birds are dead because I can only count 4 or 5. And so I'm assuming the bear is probably going to come back in the evening because that's when they do most of their work. But I saw the bear come back around 9. I ran out there, and I didn't want to scare the bear away, but I kind of had to stalk it around the chicken coop, and it was going right back into the chickens to kill the rest of them. Super easy meal for a bear, and I don't blame them. And we have a year-long bear tag in town. So you can shoot a bear if it's killing your chickens, breaking your car. They call it a defensive life and property, or a DLP. But this one we had a tag for, so I just walked back there, I shot it, skinned it, and game over. And it wasn't a big one. It was like a 7-foot salad, a really good hide. But, it's kind of a catch-22. If you want the chickens and the eggs, you have all this scent, and bears, they're going to go for it. So it's kind of a problem we have, kind of like just a big raccoon.
Big raccoon at 7 feet. And that's something else that a lot of people are not going to wrap their heads around is you say it's not that big a bear and it was only 7 feet, right? A lot of our people that are watching and listening don't have a clue about the true size of a grizzly bear. I've got one that I was fortunate enough to take, going back to 2012 now. He went 8'4" nose to tail. huge bear.
Big.
But when you're saying a 7-foot bear isn't that big, what's a big bear to you?
So I'm going off square size. If a bear is 8'4" nose to tail, that's usually their shortest measurement because they're
Yeah.
long with claw to claw. So that's probably closer to a 9-foot bear.
Yeah.
That's a really big bear.
Oh, he's
Especially for a grizzly. Ours are considered coastal brown bears, some of the biggest in the world on the Alaska Peninsula. But just the ones in town, they're like, you just don't see big ones in town. The big ones are smart because they're 15 to 20 years old and they don't really come into town often. So a big bear in town would be like 8.5, 9 foot square.
Our biggest gets 10.
Yeah, 10 and a half. The biggest we've seen, her brother Travis shot it with me, and it was 10'8" squared out.
Wow.
Yeah, we've killed a couple Boone and Crockett bears, and just the one that almost killed Tana was 10'4", and so they get really big. So I guess a 7-footer is big to someone who's only ever seen a 4 to 5 foot black bear, or a 6-foot black bear is really big. But yeah, when you're out hunting, you're looking for 8s, 9s, and 10s. Yeah, a little 7-footer just seems like a little rodent in the backyard.
Yeah,
you know,
hard to wrap your head around. So Tana, do you want to talk about your experience there with the bear?
Yeah, how many years ago was that? I guess it'd be 3 years ago now. My brother and I went out brown bear hunting, and he had a tag, and we, long story short, just went too far. We went way up this canyon and then 2,500 feet vertical up, and we were 8 miles from camp after this bear because he was shooting one archery, and he was bedded down. So we're like, perfect. It's like a sleeping bear. You can, stalk him and shoot him. But where he was sleeping, he was in the wide open in the snow, and there's no cover. So you don't really want to stalk up on a 10-foot bear with no cover. So we got like 400 yards from him and decided to shoot him with a rifle. And so he shot him with a rifle 3 times, and he had some good vital shots, like through the lungs, through the high shoulder, through the high neck, and just barely missed the spine, so didn't drop him. That's like a good shot for a bear, is if you shoot him in the spine, just to drop him, because they're really tough. And we had 338 Ultra Mag, and after 3 shots, our rifle jammed. And at that point, he was archery hunting, so he was using like my backup rifle. He had a bow and a pistol. He had a 450 revolver. He had a 454 Casull, and then I had the rifle. And so now we've got a jammed rifle, and all we have is a bow and a 454 Casull revolver. And so we were trying to figure out why it was not jamming. We figured the bear was going to die because he's like spewing blood out both sides. And instead he saw us and, started working his way down while he's wounded through the snow at us. And they can move quite quickly when they're, 10-foot squared nose to tail. A lot faster than us. It'll be just kind of like sliding down a hill, And so, yeah, he got too close, and we basically ran for our lives and tried to run a couple hundred yards to at least get cover, because we were kind of in the wide open in the snow, and found some rocks. So we hid behind the rocks, and my brother's telling me, he's like, oh, he's going to die by the time he gets here. I'm like, I have a feeling he's not. You need to finish him off. And we're looking at this revolver of like, oh, great, this huge rifle didn't kill him. What's this little thing going to do? And still couldn't figure out how to get it unjammed. The bolt just would not close. And we both, after we decided that, I'm like, you're going to have to finish him. And we both look up, and the bear's coming over the hill. He tracked us, and then he came full speed, about 100 yards in like 10 seconds. It was just like a flash, I saw my life flash, the whole thing. And then my brother just started shooting once he got under 30 yards. And we had 5 rounds in that 454. And the 4th shot, as he was like, one more lunge to come over the rock at me. The 4th shot, like, hurt him enough to turn him. And then that last shot killed him. But we didn't know he was dead because he kind of slid behind those rocks and we couldn't see him, and we just ran. We just kept running. So yeah, it was a good another hour before we could find him and knew he was actually dead and didn't know we were getting stalked anymore. So it was a pretty intense experience all in all. And then being 8 miles from camp, this was right before dark. So then we had to survive on the mountain, skin him out. And then it was blowing 50 miles an hour and, so much rain. I mean, we were soaked, we were cold. Now we had to survive, potential hypothermia. And so, yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience, and one that I don't ever want to relive.
No kidding.
Did get off the mountain by like midnight, but in the dark. And thankfully, we had our Onyx tracks turned on, so we had kind of scaled some cliffs to get up there, and we were able to get down without falling off any cliffs. Otherwise, without those tracks, we couldn't see anything. It was just stormy and dark and cold. Then we slept in the river bottom, like under a tarp, because we were several miles from camp still, and kind of waited out the night, and then hiked out the next day with severe PTSD, a lot of flashbacks that we both struggled with all day. Because now we still have a jammed rifle, and we have to make it all the way back to camp in bear country without running into another bear. We had 5 more rounds left in the revolver, so we're like, well, if we have another encounter, we've got 5 more. But it was a couple days of pure survival, and yeah, made it out safely, thankfully. But that trip really kind of changed the trajectory of my life and my trauma, I guess, with bears and with hunting. I still hunt, I still go out, but it's always back in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And you hear about it every year. There's people that don't come out of it very well. There's fatalities every year. There's severe injuries. I know personally 1, 2, 3, 4 people that have been in similar situations. But as you said, the PTSD is always going to be there. Adam, let's talk about some of your hairy stories. I know you've got one about wrecking the cub. You want to dig into that a bit?
Yeah, thankfully it's the only hairy plane I've ever wrecked. Hopefully it'll be the only one. But yeah, similar to Tana, that's a big turning point in your life. And mine was just due to inexperience, being cock of the block. I just got done watching YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, obviously, for Stuck in the Rut. There's a lot of flying portions on there. People really like that. And I tell people, do not watch me on YouTube and then go try and duplicate anything, because that's what bit me. You're watching guys that have 20, 30,000 hours be these super cut cowboys, and you're like, I'm a badass. I'm going to go do that because I have this ultimate machine, but it takes an operator, not just the machine, to do that. It's more about the golfer, not the golf clubs. And so I was going to fly for an outfitter and fishing, hunting lodge in Alaska. Really low time experience guy of like 300 flight hours, which is just enough to know some stuff. And I went in on a gravel bar, and you do a lot of low level passes to recognize potential danger when you're evaluating a spot to land. And I just flew over once at like 500 feet. I'm like, yeah, looks good. And that's it. And knowing now I would never do something like that. But like I said, it was an experience. Then I landed, and as I came to kind of no man's land and landing, I was like 25 miles an hour. I kind of launched off a little jump, like 12, 14 inches high. And I should have just taken the flaps out, which kills the lift on the wings, and, pushed the stick forward, and probably wouldn't even have bent anything. But I said, oh, no. I kind of got scared and reverted to, like, when you're flight training, just go around and add full throttle. Sometimes that's not always the best route, And I turned to the right, and I had a crosswind from the left, and so now I'm going downwind. And the plane kind of feels like it's getting pushed down, kind of like a duck when it turns downwind and you watch them. And I pulled up on the stick. I don't think I was coordinated with the rudders, and I just snap, rolled, spinned it from about 25, 30 feet up, and got a helicopter ride out. I should have been dead instantly. I mean, the whole top deck crushed in and everything. And Super Cubs, they're a lot stronger now, but this one didn't have all the fuselage modifications to keep the wings from, like, folding in and, like, trapping you inside. You got gas leaking everywhere. So I get out. You think your life's over. You should be dead, but you're not. But you're never going to fly again. And I got a helicopter ride out. And that was a hard one to brush off, but, you just take a step back and realize you're not very good. You don't know anything, and you got to kind of start over. And, I got, I don't know, probably 7,000 more hours now, and I haven't crashed another one. So it was a good learning lesson. I've still bent a lot of stuff, bent a lot of metal, screwed up a lot, because you don't always have a perfect mentor. I've had some really good mentors out there, but they don't show you everything. And so a lot of it comes from experience, and that comes from screwing up.
Right. What's that saying? There's old pilots and there's bold pilots, but there's no old bold pilots.
Yeah. I'd like to think that I will be one of them. You got to push the limits, and you can't fly like a little pansy, because it's not always 100%. It's sometimes in the back of your mind, like, hey, it doesn't go right, the insurance is going to pick this thing up with a helicopter and we'll figure it out, you know. But yeah, there's just a lot of experience that comes from screwing up. But now you park back in the hangar and you kind of look over everything when you're done, and nothing's broken. So that's nice. Those things happen more frequently, and you break less and less the more experience you get. And the only way to get experience is not by buying all the fancy aircraft gadgets and mods and big tires and super duper engines. I tell guys all the time, no one wants to hear it. You just got to buy avgas, and you got to spend the time. And there's no quick way to get good. You just got to put in the time.
Yeah. I've got some great friends that are pilots. One guy, he's full-time pilot for Air Canada, but on the side, he's got a Widgeon. Yep. So that's beautiful aircraft. I haven't had the opportunity to go up with him yet, but he's been flying for a lot of years, and got other buddies that have got Super Cubs, and they all say the same thing, right? It's time in the air, learning from your mistakes, right? And any landing you can walk away from is a good one, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. It's great if you can use the airplane again. That's
saying. Even better, right? Yeah. That's even better. So as we start to kind of run this conversation out a little bit, I know you guys are busy as all hell. I want to know, I've seen some videos of you recently. You were sitting on the couch there, Tana, getting an IV infusion or whatever it was, and you kind of panned across the wall behind you, and the amount of animals there was absolutely unreal. So I want to know, Adam, first, let's start with you. What's your favorite game to hunt and why?
Probably moose, I would say. Just I flew up in Alaska for many years in the fishing lodge industry, and I'd fly all of September, and I'd see all these big bulls, and that's why people think it's like crazy. Like, just move up from Idaho, and I had this plan set in motion to kill big moose from the time I was a little kid. I just had to put all the pieces together, buy a Super Cub. I knew where the moose were. I flew up here for 10, 15 years. I saw them. I saw where they rutted. I saw how they acted and stuff, flying fishermen around. And so I guess it just had a grip on me. And I'm not a huge trophy hunter. I've killed some big animals, other species. When it comes to moose, I'm pretty selective. And I guess if I just want to be really particular. I don't just want to shoot the first one I see. I want a really old, mature sample of that area. And I'm really into killing big moose.
And Tana, what about you? Same question.
Oh, it's so hard. I like, if there's only one animal I could hunt forever, then I'd want to eat, you know. It would be caribou. Caribou are kind of my thing. Moose are his thing. Caribou are mine. I like to shoot big caribou, but they also taste really amazing if you shoot them at the right time. You don't want to shoot them in the rut, but before the rut or after the rut, they taste amazing. But for me, I really love predator hunting. I don't know why, because I have so much PTSD from predators, but I love predators. Like, I'm going to go mountain lion hunting this winter. I'm going on a polar bear hunt, Canada next spring. So, you know, if I ever travel to hunt, like even to Africa, I'd want to do a lion. You know, I love predators and the conservation side of it. It's thrilling. It's, I don't know, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie. Just like to live on the edge, but for me in Alaska, like, predator hunting is really fun. Wolf hunting, especially.
But don't make me pick just one, right?
I know.
I love predator hunting. Black bears, wolves, lynx, coyotes, any of that. You can like see right here, full mount lynx. There's coyotes, there's book wolves. Just there's something about the conservation factor and just being out there, and it's silent when you're out there. Awesome. I totally enjoyed this conversation. I know I've taken up a lot of your day, and I just want to thank you from me at Wild Talk and everybody at Wild TV. Thanks for doing all that you do, and we hope to have you on again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Wild Talk is brought to you by Aventura, Timber Stove, Hornady, and Wild TV Plus.